Hi, I'm Roelof van Dijk, Executive Director of the Real Estate Forums here with Informa, and welcome to 10 Minutes with Ed Hachey, Managing Director of EVSTART. So we've all heard about the federal government's net zero commitments by 2050 and all the similar commitments made by stakeholders in the commercial real estate and multifamily sector. But it is one thing to make commitments and an entirely different thing to deliver on these promises. So one of the things, obviously, reducing pollution from the transportation sector is critical to Canada achieving its climate targets, which is why the government of Canada is making it easier for Canadians to purchase and drive EVs. But even more importantly, it needs to be convenient and quick to charge these EVs. So Ed, EVSTART is an electric vehicle charging leader, and a big part of what you do is solving building infrastructure challenges. And I know there's a ton of challenges. So installing an EV charger in a single family home is relatively easy, but installing multiple EV chargers in a multifamily or commercial building is entirely different. Can you talk about some of the challenges associated with installing EV chargers in multifamily residential or even office or retail properties, and how particularly does EVSTART assist clients with overcoming these multiple challenges?
Sure, great question. Very common. We get it from a lot of our clients regularly. So two common items that happen, and it's relative to the type of building, but one that is common is the electrical capacity that's in the building. So, there's always the question of how much power is available for EV chargers, assuming the building needs to meet its peak load days during the year. So those are days are obviously where the most amount of electrical demand is being taken from all the elements of the building. So for electrical capacity, EVSTART can design a system to meet that any of those capacity constraints. But it uses a feature of these intelligent chargers that are in the marketplace now with the software that goes paired with them, and it's something called load management. And what that allows is the ability to kind of quadruple the number of chargers that can be deployed in a building. So we do this through an assessment. We obviously assess the building. We look at how its peak load days occur, but then we design our system to meet that available capacity. What's nice about load management is you really only need about 25% of the capacity to meet 100% of your targeted EV charger location goals. And it effectively allows you to oversubscribe the power that's available at a 4-to-1 ratio. We find this really helps from the point of view that you don't need to target, like on a 1-to-1 basis, 100% load from every charger that's there, because the technology is in place that allows all the chargers with their intelligence built into them and the software management system that comes paired with it to basically share that available capacity based on the load that they're going to demand. All chargers are not active at the same time, so therefore you can allow them to self-modulate, reduce their output, do various things to manage it, but still be able to achieve the charging state that you want at the end of the day, because you're looking to get vehicles charged up to about 80% on a regular basis. This system allows you to do that in a residential environment. You've got 10 to 12 hours where cars are parked, lots of available time, so you can modulate that output over those periods and make sure everybody gets topped up by the morning. Now, the second challenge is unique to whether or not the buildings are apartments or condos or office buildings. And, part of that is the expected uptake. So, in apartments or commercial environments, you want to define the number of chargers to deploy initially, and then you can correspond your electrical upgrades to that. That allows everybody to kind of take a bit of a phased approach if they choose to. We recommend owners survey their tenants and kind of profile their buildings based on what the economic rents are, what their availability is, how many people they anticipate are going to want to use it or are anticipating buying an electric vehicle in the future. That really allows you to decide, how do you want to deploy it initially, how many, and over what period of time. Do you want to take a phased approach where you install a couple of shared chargers and then add more as demand hits you? For condominiums, it's a little different because it's all about trying to serve the tenants or in-suite occupants' needs. And a lot of this comes down to the sharing of electrical upgrade components. So buildings really need to understand, how many people are going to be willing to kind of sign up day one, how many people are going to be able to sign up later on. And they need to build an appetite at the board level to recoup some of this investment on a pro rata share, because not everybody's going to want to pay day one. So the concept is, we put together a budget. If you wanted to deploy 40 chargers in the building because there's enough power, because you can do 10 at 100% load and go to 40 with load management. All of that infrastructure needs to be paid for upfront, and then they can recoup it on a pro rata basis as individual suite owners decide to opt in and get a charger deployed in their locations. So once again, we recommend the board survey their unit owners, the tenant. Buildings. Not a lot of condos today now have tenants. It's not necessarily owner occupied. So the unit owners, the tenants, just to gauge those potential needs and think about taking a holistic approach to deploying the chargers in the common area. Without that holistic approach with a single turnkey supplier such as EVSTART, the building's not going to be able to take advantage of these technical benefits such as load management. They'll be stuck eating up their capacity by allowing individuals to deploy chargers one by one, which we don't really recommend.
Okay, no, that's really interesting. Now, part of what you mentioned is if you have a condo building and they do an uptake of like 40 chargers or something like that. But if we were to fast forward 10 years into the future, let's say, and the government has it their way, and all new cars are EV, I guess that's when building owners probably need to worry a bit more about these load factors. And do you anticipate larger scale upgrades to the building power systems in order to accommodate that? Because if you have the office buildings, people are going to, that's one thing to, you have so many people that might charge it there. But going back to the multifamily, if everyone's wanting to charge overnight and you have, I don't know, many hundred of units in the building, and half of them or more than that are looking to get EV charging services, how does that impact the building and the other electrical systems?
Short term, obviously load management is a great program that likely is going to cover you for the next 5-7 years. 2030, 2035-ish. Obviously, thinking beyond that, there's going to need to be some other elements. What we see in the marketplace that is going to be a big driver of capacity in the buildings, and it's a multi-beneficial product, is battery energy storage systems. And these are building-based battery energy storage systems. So it's the equivalent of putting a large battery bank in the building that overnight you utilize the low utility rates to fill up. And then during the day, you can engage that battery bank to support your energy needs. So it has 3 benefits for the buildings at some point, and the economics are quickly becoming very rational for the investment. Obviously you're going to be able to cut your peak load that's in the building. So if you're subsidizing what your demand is through an in-building energy system, you don't need to pull that from the grid. Now you're concerned about what are my peak load days kind of starts to dissipate away, and you actually gain capacity back in the building, because a lot of that peak load is only for a few days a year. You've got to design to it because you don't want the building to have a brownout during those periods. But if you can shave that peak load down, you get all that capacity back. That will allow you to add more chargers again, because you're going to gain back capacity in the building. As you continue to grow that, you may hit another headroom. The idea is you can supplement your power needs from that battery bank as well during the day. So, with those 2 elements, the cost savings on the peak load shaving for a building, the ability to take out those additional rate states that they have to pay as their consumption goes up, that alone is a big payback to the building. The ability to obviously build in additional capacity, that's a huge benefit from the point of view you don't need to go back to the grid and upgrade any of your incoming transformers. And then the third benefit really sits there, and it's kind of an idle benefit, is you have a built-in UPS or backup battery system in the building that in case of a grid outage, you actually have the ability to continue to maintain energy within the building and supply some of the emergency services or anything else you decide to based on that load factor. So those elements are really they're going to play into the long-term need for EV charging and overall just the electrification of all the buildings. So looking to decarbonize, you need to add more electrical components. This ability to actually gain all that headroom and additional capacity and resiliency is going to be built into those types of systems.
That's really interesting, actually, and about the resiliency part as well. Benefits on benefits, right? But you mentioned a few things there about, the cost of electricity, the cost of the systems, and it sounds like financing these initiatives might be one of the biggest hurdles, or a big hurdle nonetheless. And I understand that Natural Resources Canada has the ZVIP, or Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Program, to help out. Can you tell me what exactly that program is? What are the goals of the program? Over what period, and how does it help the average building owner in implementation, I guess, of these systems?
Sure. Yeah. And this is a big critical question for a lot of people, because obviously funding rebates help facilitate the deployment of chargers. So the ZVIP program, or Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Program, it's administered by Natural Resources Canada. It's a subsidy program to encourage deployment of EV chargers across Canada. The program targets all types of chargers, all different types of locations, including private or public charging. So think, charging gas stations, and private and semi-private charging, including office buildings, multi-unit residential, fleet, everything. I mean, they're trying to address the concept that infrastructure needs to be there in order for the adoption to come with it. So this program was put in place to help grease the wheels for the point of the deployment of the electrical infrastructures to support electrical vehicle adoption. So the program itself provides for rebates up to 50% of the cost to installing chargers, up to about $5,000 per level 2 chargers. They have higher amounts for bigger chargers for public charging. But I mean, in most office buildings and multi-unit residential buildings, level 2 is more than enough for what you need, given the amount of time that a vehicle stands idle and the ability to charge during that time. The program's been around since 2019. Enercan's committed about $680 million over 5 years to the deployment of electrical vehicle chargers. And it's funded in kind of 2 distinct channels. So Natural Resources Canada will fund projects that are larger than 20 chargers, and they do a once-a-year intake of applications, and the program takes about 6 to 8 months to kind of get your approval, and then the applicant can claim their rebates, but they have a fairly long time period. They can claim those rebates over 30 months. So those are good for, say, new condo developments where the condominium is not going to be built until 2025, 26, new office building, where those periods are going to take longer. Or where you're working through a portfolio of buildings. So you have 200 buildings and you want to do 50 or 60 buildings a year, you can use this program to stagger that all out and do it over multiple years. If that doesn't fit within the realm of what the client may need, there is the ability to fund projects smaller than 20 chargers, and they're funded through smaller entities called third-party delivery organizations. So these are organizations that Enercan has anointed to help them administer the deployment of these funds, but for much smaller projects. Obviously, when it takes as much work to fund and administer a big project as it does a small one, so they decided to partner with these agencies across Canada. They include, Toronto Atmospheric Fund, various utilities like Essex, Alexicon, Ottawa Hydro. All these entities are out there that will help fund these different types of projects. Big criteria: less than 20 chargers. Typically, the funding needs to be deployed somewhere in the range of, say, 6 to 18 months after approval. And the nice thing about this third party program is they're accepting applications on a regular basis. So they get funded by Enercan, and their goal is to obviously commit that funding to individual projects. They're able to do those on a regular basis. Now they get funding. They deploy it all, they wait, they ask for, we've seen in the past, they ask for top-ups, they get a second round of funding. So we're always working with these third-party organizations, whether, when we're assisting our clients to apply on their behalf, we'll do the application. It may get approved or it may get waitlisted, and you're waiting until that next deployment of funding is received by the third party. But a part of what we do is, we don't leave that up to the clients at EVSTART. We assist them with the application process. So making sure the applications are complete, they're well written, they score well because they're all scored. And then making sure that, on the back end, once the project is complete, we're helping you compile all the bills, make sure all your expenses are eligible, they get submitted properly, and your rebate requests get processed quickly. And that's all done by EVSTART. No additional fee. It's part of what comes with a turnkey solution is, we help on the design side, the installation, the ongoing management, and including any of the rebate side.
Yeah, that's all pretty important stuff, I guess. And the funny thing is, we've only gone on about this for about 10 minutes now, but we've gone through a lot of information, and we're probably just scratching the surface, I imagine. So thank you very much for all of that. I imagine if anyone wanted to get in touch with you or wanted some more information, they can just go to the EVSTART website, evstart.com website, and get in touch with you there.
Correct. Yeah. Reach out. We've got two sections. You can just a regular contact form. We also have a ZBIP qualification form. So if you click through to that, you can put in a bunch of the criteria that helps us make sure that you understand how we can help you through that process as well.
Perfect. All right. So thank you very much for joining us for 10 minutes with Ed Hachey, Managing Director of EVSTART. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Great to be here.